So all of your assignments need to be completed on the day that they are due. And this is really important. In the spring, when you were in classes, that wasn't necessarily the expectation. A lot of the time, you were able to have a week to do an assignment or something like that. I know my students did. That will not be how this works. So if you were supposed to be in class that day and there's an assignment for classwork, it needs to be done that day. There are no extensions. That is the expectation. If something crazy happens in your family, and of course I can be lenient to an extent, but the general expectation and the general rule for 99% of the time is that your assignments are done that day. Attendance is also mandatory virtually every day. So if you're working from home that day, you need to log into our classroom around the class time that you normally would come to class. So if you were supposed to be in your third period, try to log in around third period. There'll be a question of the day that you need to answer, and that will be your attendance for the day. Sometimes it's going to say, hey, how are you? Just checking in. Let me know how you're doing in the comments below. It'll be a mandatory question, and you'll see that it needs to be done, and you'll have to write, I'm doing okay, or whatever it is that we're asking that day. A lot of times it's going to be a question in Spanish, a question that we have learned, nothing that you haven't learned yet. And I want you to respond to that question. That's your attendance for the day. Your assignments on top of that will be something different. Plan for success and prepare. If you're working from home, you should have a space set up for yourself that you can go to every day. You have your materials there. If you printed my Spanish glossary off the website, maybe that's something you have there. You have scratch paper, you have pens and pencils, anything you need. So set yourself up for success. Let's make this a really great year. And make sure you check your grades regularly. We use eSchool data. I'm sure that you've used that in every school you've gone to, unless you're a new student transferring in. If you have any questions on how to access grades, let's figure that out immediately, because this is a great way to keep track of what you're missing. Not every assignment we do is going to be in the Google Classroom for those of you that are coming in and working virtually 8 day. So it's really important to be using the eSchool data gradebook in order to keep up with your stuff. Right? Your grades, 40% is going to be your assessments, mostly projects this year, but we will have checkpoints, which are like big quizzes, like examinitos, like they're supposed to be tests, but they're smaller. Classwork, activities you're doing in class, or virtual lesson work from home. If it's a lesson that is meant to replace class time, it's 25% of your average. We also have 25% quizzes and checkpoints. Those will be every few days. We'll do one of those short 10 questions, something like that. And that might not necessarily be a traditional quiz. It might be a homework activity I'm doing that I label as a quizito, and it's basically going over the current topics we're working on. And 10% homework. Those will most likely be on the Google Classroom, and they will be smaller assignments, and they will be labeled as homework so that you will know. They'll be much shorter since they're only 10% of your grade. And that's me just checking in. A lot of times it might be a speaking activity on Linked, or it might be an ed puzzle. There's a bunch of different things it could be, but a shorter assignment, a shorter version of those things. Click the home button. This goes through the units of study we'll be covering this year. Spanish 2 and then Spanish 1, you can look at those closely. They're very, very similar. They're just slightly different. Procedures for in class. It's really important that you bookmark our class app on your phone. It's available on our class website where you got your Google Classroom code. I'll be going over this in class, and there's also a post about this in your Google Classroom, but you need to bookmark our class app because it gives you access to our virtual classroom, which is me in my Bitmoji version doing things. It also gives you access to our regular class website, which has codes for like everything we'll ever do. That website also has additional resources. It's really important, so make sure you do that. Everything you do in a virtual classroom, like I said earlier, you're accountable for respectful speech, respectful behavior. I can't say that enough. Please stay organized and keep notes. Just because you're at home doesn't mean you shouldn't be taking notes about what we're doing in class. You can do it virtually, you can type something up, or you could just have a notebook next to the computer and write in it like we did since the Stone Age, back when I had chalk and slate in school in the early 1800s. Teachers will provide speaking, listening, reading, writing, and culture activities in each chapter. This is true. We will be talking about cultures. I want you to be open-minded about some of the things we talk about, and you have to be willing to do speaking, listening, reading, and writing. If there's an assignment you don't feel comfortable doing, talk to me beforehand, and I'll find another way for you to do it. But I'm not going to excuse anyone from anything. We'll find other ways that you can do it and feel comfortable, especially with like Flipgrid, things